You're listening to Trek FM.
Hello everyone, and welcome to From There to Here, Trek FM's celebration of 50 years of Star Trek. I am your host for this episode, Daniel Proulx from Earl Grey, and with me is...
Mike from Stage 9.
And we're going to be talking about 2 episodes of Voyager today. We're going to be talking Projections and Elogium. So Projections is when the Doctor is informed that he is actually Louis Zimmerman, the creator of the EMH. He is trapped on a holographic Voyager on Jupiter Station, and his whole Voyager experience was on a holodeck. This sounds pretty meta. What do you think about this, Mike?
Yeah, I like this episode quite a bit. I think it's kind of cool. I believe this episode was written by Bryan and Braga, if I'm not mistaken, and it's got that sort of like crazy mystery element going on in it. It's very sort of Twilight Zone-y in a sense, but I think it also has like a really good sense of humor. And there's a lot of crazy stuff going on here, a lot of like twists and turns. And I like it quite a bit. You get to see Barclay, because why not? And yeah, the Doctor is an interesting character on the whole, in this idea of like whether or not what you're seeing is reality or whatever. I think is pretty awesome. So I dig this episode quite a bit. What'd you think?
These early Voyager episodes, man, it's funny because like I haven't watched Voyager in a little while. When I think of the Doctor, I think of later season the Doctor. But for the From There to Here stuff, I've been watching early Voyager, and they nailed it with him. I mean, all the way through. Like, his character arc is so good. It is solid from the beginning. He's one of the strongest points of the show for me. And so here we kind of have him dealing with this idea, like, what am I? And it's not like a huge part of the episode in a way. I mean, obviously it is the main point of the episode, but like the repercussions of that aren't super relevant right away. But it fits within his character arc overall. So here, basically, he's kind of coming face to face with what does he want to think of himself, essentially. And it's really, really cool how that kind of fits in his overall arc.
Yeah, it's a really cool episode. I think that the Doctor is one of the characters which they did the best job of sort of exploring, and I mean, part of it is that, they gave him a lot to do. He is kind of like the Data of Voyager in a lot of ways. I know 7 of 9 sort of became that later on, but the idea of what does it mean to be alive and all that stuff, there are some interesting philosophical questions going on, and to be able to do that in such a fun way, I think is pretty cool. And it's a good episode.
And like you mentioned, we get to see Barclay, which, as a fan of Barclay, I love seeing Barclay here. And it's cool that he becomes an important part of Voyager later, but if you're watching the show for the first time, you wouldn't necessarily know that.
Yeah, and this is technically fake Barclay, not real Barclay.
Yeah.
So
fake Barclay, which would be Farkley, I think is what that is.
Farkley, yeah, that's good.
And this idea of, hey, how can we expand the Doctor's range to other parts of the ship is explored a little bit here. And just like you said, the Bryan Braga's famous, crazy, nonsense writing is in full effect here, and it's cool. It is cool because like they do this thing, they throw a double twist at you because you think you're out of it, and then you're not. And he's still going crazy, and Kes is his wife, and there's it's cool. It's very unpredictable. It's very hard to see where this episode is going, and sometimes Star Trek can be a little formulaic, and you can see where this is going. Watching it in the scope of all of Star Trek, I of course know he is not Louis Zimmerman, but watching it with that knowledge and just the selective memory of, I don't remember this specific episode, it's always like, I don't remember how they resolved this episode, because this episode is putting up a convincing argument. Like, if I was in the Doctor's place, I would start to believe no, I'm Louis Zimmerman. And so it's cool. It sets that up really well, and it's hard to kind of see the way out of it, and you don't kind of see it coming. So that's cool.
Yeah, and I mean, it does have like a Twilight Zone vibe to it. It also has a very sort of like Hitchcockian vibe to it, and Brandon Braga has talked on numerous occasions about how he's a really big fan of Hitchcock, and you can kind of see that here. And I think that's cool, that sort of like mystery element to it. It totally works, even when, even on like a first-time viewing, of course, that they're not going to completely change the premise of the show, but it does sort of, just present that question of like, what is reality? Because for all that, the doctor knows, he could still be in there. He could still be in that thing, and what we're watching is actually just a holodeck program, I mean, from who knows what. And I think that's interesting and cool, for sure.
I also like how this sets up like alternate scenes from Caretaker. I like that.
Yeah.
We get to see those same scenes played out in a different way, and that's always super fun to me. That like, because he doesn't have time for this, and I don't need to do this right now. I'm sorry, I'm going to do more important things, Captain. And that's fun to kind of like play around with time like that, which is a very Brandon Braga thing to do as well. So that was cool. I really liked those sequences where it was like Caretaker, Doctor. I was actually Projections Doctor filling in for Caretaker Doctor. That was cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. And like you see the same sort of like shots and the same lines, but they're read from basically a different perspective. Now we're seeing the scene from the Doctor's perspective, but also from the Doctor's perspective after knowing everything that he knows. And yeah, that was really, really cool, for sure.
And it also, it kind of provides a stark contrast from literally the Caretaker Doctor, even though we're only a season in, but it does show that he's a very different character all the way, up to this point, and shows that he has much further to go as well. Also, just a side note, episode directed by Jonathan Frakes. So
hey, I didn't even realize that, but makes sense because he's really good at directing.
Yeah, good stuff. Good, solid Season 2 Voyager episode. You should check out Projections. It's a lot of fun.
For sure.
Moving on, we are going to talk about Elogium. Elogium is the episode where Kes gets mustard on her hands. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Voyager encounters a swarm of spaceborne aliens, while Kes and Neelix must decide whether to have a child. Please God, no, is the answer to that. What do you think about this episode, Mike?
This is the Voyager Sexy Time episode. Everyone's getting it on in this episode. We're finding out about Ensign Wildman, and find out that she got it on. And then here's where we really see that the whole moving this into season 2 thing doesn't work, because it's like, wait a minute, what? How long have they been gone now? But whatever. But yeah, this episode is not tremendously good.
Yes, that's true. That's probably true.
I mean, it's presenting some interesting questions, and the idea of being a parent and all this stuff. And I don't know, I have a really hard time sort of like wrapping my head around the Ocampa, because their lifespans are so short and stuff like that. It really is, kind of problematic. And I know it's supposed to be alien and everything like that, but I don't really know if that necessarily works when you sort of butt that up against humans and sort of try to play it off like, oh yeah, they're the same things, they just only live for like 5 years. I mean, that doesn't really work for me.
Are you telling me you're uncomfortable seeing the sexual maturity of a 2-year-old? Is that what you're trying to tell me, Mike?
Perhaps. And I mean, I totally understand what they're going for and everything like that, but I mean, I guess I have to put myself in their shoes, where it's like, I only live for 6 years, but the fact that she's like, I'm not even 2 yet, and she's off doing her thing and has been for like a year, right? So the whole time where she's like, I just don't think I'm ready for that commitment, that and Neelix especially, who's like, do I really want to commit to being a parent? And it's like, it's going to take a year, I mean, I was, having that same conflict when I was deciding whether or not to do this show, because I'm like, it's going to be a year, but at the same time, I thought like, it's only a year, So I mean, maybe it's different for the Ocampa because you only live for like 6 years, but I don't know. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Now I'm imagining you like in December of last year with mustard on your hands going through Elogium like, do I want to do this? This is such a burden on my life, Oh, man.
Yeah, yep. Well, what can you do? But I still don't know whether or not I made the right choice, but we'll see.
Soon. 4 more months, Michael. He'll be done.
Oh, God, that's so long. I can't even think about it. But yeah, so I didn't really like this episode. Did you? Did you like this episode?
No. This episode is not great, like you said. It's one of those things where like you can see the good intentions of the writers, but it doesn't work on screen, for whatever reasons, and maybe it's not a great idea. It's just I actually really like I like Kes. I know a lot of people are lukewarm or less than that with Kes, but I like her as a character. It's just the episode. I don't know. It starts with the jealousy of Neelix, and already the Kes and Neelix thing makes me uncomfortable, makes me cringy. And then, of course, he plays a part later on where they're deciding whether or not to actually make babies. And again, oh, please, anything but that. Thank you, writers, for not following up on that. That would be by the way, an Ocampan/Talaxian baby would be the ugliest thing ever conceived of in Star Trek. I just have to say that. But this episode not great, not super fantastic.
No, yeah. But hey, we'll always have projections, right?
Well, at least for our block, yeah. I don't know much.
Just one last thing. I'm sorry. Before we unless you have a lot of stuff to say about Elogium or anything. One last thing I do want to say about projections and in relation to the 37s. In the 37s, there's that scene where like Amelia Earhart's co-pilot wakes up and he's about to die, and he's like on the bed in sick bay, and he's like, I just wanted to tell you that I love you. I really do, And then the doctor's like, okay, you're good, and he's like, really? Okay, just completely forget that I said that, right? Then now here we are 2 episodes later, and the doctor's like, Kes, I always wanted to tell you that I thought you were beautiful. And she's like, really? And he's like, oh, wait, I'm not. Oh, forget that. And it's like, really? Is this like a running thing that they're going to do? I mean, okay, let's do this some more times. It's just weird.
Yeah, it was a weird thing for the doctor to say anyways, because he's just a program, but we don't have to get into that right now.
He can admire beauty, right? I mean, like, doesn't he like listen to music and stuff? I don't know.
Well, later on.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. Basically, after he gets rampancy, but that's for later on. But what about Elogium? I mean, anything else to say about that? What about Cabbage or? Oh God, I don't even know. Beatles or anything? Anything?
Well, the scene where she's eating everything, and then like Neelix like is freaking out and like picks her up and takes her to sick bay, and she's just like grabbing random things to like eat as she's. I was like, this is like something out of a different episode entirely. Like, is this supposed to be funny? Because it's hilarious, and it seems like they're playing it for laughs, and yet. That doesn't really seem to have any place in this particular episode. It's like tonally very bizarre.
See, I cringed in that scene.
Mm-hmm.
It was tough. It was tough because I'm like, Jennifer Lean seems to be a lovely person, and she has now have to pretend like she cannot stop herself from eating leaves or whatever's in her hands, and like I'm just like, oh God, this is awful. This is terrible. Like I get that she's overwhelmed. We've all been overwhelmed by biology, by our bodies and stuff like that. But it's just like the amount of composure she loses at trying to eat these ridiculous things is so silly to me. It seems implausible. I suppose. I guess it's like this is the Ocampan Pon Far. That's what's going on here. I guess is the idea, but it's not as effective. It's not as well thought out. It's just
it seems to like cross the line into like slapstick, which was
almost, yeah, exactly.
is very
That's
strange,
exactly right.
you know. But what can you do?
What you can do is probably skip Elogium, honestly. I don't know. Anything else to say about this, Mike, or are we done here?
I think we're pretty much done.
All right. Well, if people want to find you on the internet, how can they get a hold of you?
You can find me right here on Trek FM doing Stage 9, and you can also find me on Twitter at Mumbles3K. And
they can find me on Twitter as well at OneUpDan. That's the number 1. Not the word. Now, Mike and I are done with our block here, but tomorrow we'll be joined by 2 brand new hosts talking about Non Sequitur and The Way of the Warrior. I gotta tell you, that last one has some significance for me as a DNG fan, so keep listening.